This season of Area Code Batavia is brought to you by BEI Real Estate. For over 65 years, BEI has been part of this community, helping local businesses find their place to thrive. They understand what makes Batavia special, offer flexible solutions, and actively give back. Visit their website, beicre.com, and find out how BEI can help you reach your real estate goals. Or call them directly at 630-879-3680. This episode of Area Code Batavia is brought to you by Bulldog Plumbing Incorporated. For more information or to schedule an appointment, visit their website in the show notes or give them a call at 630-313-9109.
Since the history of man, there have been Foltoses, whether it was a wishing well, the place where you buy your feed. It does happen everywhere. You know what I mean? It just takes people with what they have available to them and dreaming a little bit and say, okay, we can make this work. Because there's so many great people that do so many great things. You just have to have that thing that's burning inside of you that you go, I want to help out.
Hey everybody, you're listening to Area Code Batavia, a podcast about what it means to belong in Batavia, Illinois. I sometimes find it hard to feel contentment. It means I'm constantly trying new things, looking for something that will fill the nagging void in my soul. I say this a little bit tongue-in-cheek, a little bit. That discontentment often presents as a deep belief in potential. I'm always exploring new ideas, new technologies, new mediums. It's what made me interested in podcasting back in 2008. But Craig Foltos from Foltos Tonsorial Parlor is not as quick to become an early adopter.
I've never listened to a podcast ever.
No podcast ever?
Ever.
Wow. Cool. Maybe you'll listen to this particular one.
I don't care about mine so much. You and I have been talking about this for over a year.
Yeah.
I find, like, my brain isn't like yours. Yours is in the next generation.
Okay.
And mine isn't. Mine is still, like, I have a pad of paper and I write things down.
Yes.
I don't take my phone out and make notes.
You can see Craig's contentment with how things have always been and the way he runs Foltos Tonsorial Parlor. Other than the fact that he's willing to take credit cards as payment, there's very little else about the experience that wouldn't work the same way 50 or 60 years ago. But I think it's important not to confuse Craig's disinterest in technology as a general fear of innovation.
I used to have a show in here called The Mayor in the Chair, a video show.
Oh, interesting.
And I've done all kinds of live stuff in here. I've done stand-up comedy before.
Yeah.
I look for the part, if it's not fun, I don't want to do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then I want to do it like when you do it with people that you get a buzz with. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because otherwise, I don't need to prove anything to me. I know who I am.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I go, look, that was funny. That made it better. That can make it a better, whatever, a better world somehow.
Yeah. This tension is what intrigues me about Craig. He's one of the most content people I've ever met. In his town, in his job, in the technique and technology he uses. But he's also doing enough, trying enough to keep himself engaged and excited about the future and what's next. For instance,
like I want to do this thing next called Thirsty Third Space Thursdays.
Thirsty Third Space Thursdays.
Are you familiar with third spaces?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
So we don't have third spaces anymore.
Yeah.
So
what's an example of a third space you're thinking about? Because I do feel like
gas stations.
Okay.
Coffee
where people would just hang out. Yeah.
Coffee shops.
Yeah.
Church.
Yeah.
A bar.
Yeah.
We don't have that stuff like we used to.
Right.
You know what I mean? We don't. If you look at
or people don't frequent them in the same way.
Well, like we used to meet when we had no money. There was called meeting at the well.
Yes.
Because we only had one well.
Yes.
So everyone would meet there to get their water.
Yeah.
Well, you don't do that anymore.
Right.
And you don't, when you go to the store, you don't talk to the cashier.
Yep.
I've older people that come in here that work at Sam's Club, and they said, I have lots of old people that come in every day just to have somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And so I like the thing where we can have some cohesion. You know what I mean? And make things a little better.
I think what's interesting is I think for, you talked about my brain being in my generation is I think me and people like me also miss that, but we don't know how to solve that problem.
So, I mean, it's what I do for a living is I like when there's a lot of people in here because I can introduce you to that person, that person. Yep. So Thirsty Thursday or Third Space Thursdays.
Thirsty Third Space Thursdays.
Yeah, we're going to have once a month. I'm going to get a liquor license so that I can raise money for a charity because I love charity stuff.
Yeah.
It'll cost $10 for a ticket.
Yeah.
And we'll sell 50 tickets. And we'll have 5 people that are going to talk for 5 minutes. Let's suppose one of them every week or every month is going to be a newspaper reporter. Because he can talk about what's happening in the community.
Right.
Somebody, maybe an accountant will talk.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody selling health insurance. Maybe somebody talking about how to not get scammed because old people get scammed with tech all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will talk about podcasts, why you want to listen to them, how to listen to them, where to listen to them.
Yeah.
Because people talk to me all the time, well, you ought to listen to this podcast. I go, this is so much work. I don't want to do that.
But we make it easy with the flyer. I'll give you a flyer for this thing once it's out. There's a QR code. You know how to use a QR code? That's all you got to do. Yeah. Just do the QR code and press play. So we try to make it as easy. Yeah. But I'm aware of that. People don't know how to even get started listening to podcasts. I always start the podcast out with this question. Can you describe this space for me?
It's 24 feet wide. The ceilings are 13 feet tall. It was built between 1856 and 1865.
Okay.
So it was built out of limestone. 2 of the walls are exposed with limestone. There's a big glass front. And then I've got just things that meant something to me. The walls are filled with stories. The guy that tells the best story wins. And I have a lot of homage to my parents and grandparents. So I have pictures of them up on the wall. And then I have pictures of stuff that matter. And I like to throw a person a ball and see if they can throw it back. Like above you, there's a sign that says, I will sit still, I will sit still, I will sit still. And then it's got blood on it. And so I like when people go, oh, I like that. Yeah. The name that you pick, it used to be called Foltos Barbershop. Well, the Beatles came along in 1963, 64 and ruined the barber business for 20 years.
Okay.
So
wait, how did that? Oh, because they had long hair.
They had long hair.
I see. Yes.
So if you have 1,000 clients and they get their haircut once a month, you make some money. But if you have 1,000 clients and they get their haircut every 6 months, you just lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
So when I bought this after my dad died, I didn't want to call it Foltos Barbershop because that wasn't trendy or it wasn't inviting or intriguing. So that's why I call it a tonsorial parlor, because that's what they used to call shops, but it makes people go, what is that? And when you can make somebody ask a question, you create dialogue.
Right.
And then when you create dialogue, you have the opportunity to show them that maybe you know something. Do you know what I mean? Because, and you say, here's what I want you to know about me. And if you like that, maybe we can do business. Yeah. Because I'm not looking for everybody in the world. That's why there's red cars, blue cars, and green cars. You only want the people that are going to like you.
Right.
You know what I mean? That go, hey, I don't want people to say, well, I have to go to Foltos to get a haircut. I want them to say, I have to go to Foltos to get a haircut.
Yeah, I get you.
I want them to get in that, I have to go there.
Yeah. When this was started by your dad, why did he start this place?
Well,
what was the motivation?
He rented for 11 years prior to this.
Okay.
And there's no future in renting in a small business. Because if you rent and it's successful and the landlord decides he doesn't like you or he's going to raise the rent, you can't control that. Yeah. And so he had an opportunity to buy this building. So he bought it. Okay. And it allowed him to have, you want to go home at night and sleep and not worry. Do you know what I mean? What's the story? Can I paint the door green? If you're renting, is it all right if I paint the door green? And when you're in business, part of what you like about being in business is I'm going to work these hours. This is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to be.
Yeah. You want the autonomy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're the, it's your baby.
But why barbershop?
Well, my dad was a barber. He grew up
Okay.
on the east side of Aurora in Pigeon Hill.
Okay.
His parents came from Romania. His parents never learned to read or write in any language. Mm-hmm. So he went to World War II and he came out and he used the government assistance to go to school, and he used a caddy. And he said, well, I caddy for a lot of people, and I'm not going to go to college for 8 years to be a doctor, but maybe I could be a barber.
Yeah.
And he became a barber. He really would have been better because he was also a part-time policeman. He loved being a policeman. He loved things to make sense. He wasn't artistic like I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was really good with people, and he ran a good barber shop, but he didn't have, like, all the decorations are my decorations.
Yeah, I was going to
mean?
ask, like, the immediate question that comes to mind is how would he have felt about
Well,
the way,
he would like it because he would like seeing us be nice to people. My dad always carried 2 hankies, one for him and one for somebody who needed it.
Yeah.
And that's how I was raised. It's how you help people. If you can help somebody, you help them.
And you prepare to do that.
Yeah, and you prepare, you're proactive, and you go, okay. Like we have a coat drive every year.
Yeah.
We do the chop around the clock where we raise money for the Ronald McDonald House. It's just how your brain is wired.
What was your relationship to the barbershop growing up?
Oh, when I was a little kid, I liked coming down when he was open because it meant I could get candy. And in the summer, it had air conditioning, and we didn't have air conditioning. Nobody had it at home. And I liked seeing my dad in his uniform, his barber white coat.
Yeah.
But when we bought this building, that changed completely because that meant every week we had to come down here and clean.
Oh, wow.
And that was not fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Here, no, I don't want to goof off, play baseball with my friends. I want to go clean the barber shop. But it's good to learn how to work.
So, yeah. So when did you actually start working here then?
Well, I started at 11 years old cleaning.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I bought this. I used to be a carpenter and build houses. And my dad died in 1976. And I bought this because I didn't want to bury him. And we used to have a store in back. It was a bookstore, and I used to work there occasionally. And I owned the bookstore. So I worked there every day, plus doing carpentry. And then carpentry stopped being fun for me. And the interest rate in 1980, it went to 19%. And it took all the fun out of it. And I said, okay, I know how to do this. I've been doing this for 12 years. I'm going to figure out what is the next step I want to do. Because barbershops at that time weren't making any money.
Yeah.
So then I figured out how to make money down here. And it's been good. I like it because every 20 minutes you change the channel. It's
a different person
It's a different person. Yeah. I'm the accountant. I'm the sweeper.
Yeah.
I'm the hair washer.
Yeah.
It's good.
And you
good.
like that variety.
I like that. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to just be any one of those things, just doing that. But yeah, it fits for me. I like being a shopkeeper. I like washing the windows. I loved, now the city does it, but we used to shovel the snow on our own sidewalks.
Yeah.
I like shoveling the snow. Do you know what I mean? I like shoveling my neighbor's snow if they can't do it.
Yeah.
There's a community feel to it.
Yeah.
When my dad was alive, he was a part-time policeman. And whenever there would be a fire truck go through town, my dad would go out and direct traffic to make sure the fire truck went through the intersections okay.
Yeah. And
I like that. You know what I mean? That was a good, you do what you have to do to make the community better.
Yeah.
So.
And it does feel like that proactive thing is a big piece of it. Relating to you is interesting because I'm, I talked about that I miss the community thing, but don't know what to do about it. Part of that is technology. We've all gotten used to our online worlds and we live in that space a lot. Part of that is also just I I'm somewhat of an introvert. So when I go into public spaces where I don't know people that I'm inherently comfortable with, I sort of shut down a little bit. And that's part of why I made this podcast. It's a lot about having control over the situation. Right. And then that allows me to actually connect with people.
Well, when I go into a place, I'm extroverted here, but I'm not extroverted when I go into a place to start with. I see where I fit.
Yeah, exactly.
How they're playing the game, what the rules are.
Right.
You know, and I don't want to waste my stuff where it's not going to be appreciated.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I go, look, I don't need to do this. I always tell people, when a mailman comes home from work, he doesn't go for a walk every night, you know.
You don't want to do more of the same thing.
After I've had 30 people here, you know, I love people, but I want it to mean something. You know, what limited time, as you get older, success isn't about money, it's free time.
Yeah.
What am I doing with my life? What did I do that mattered that day?
But it is interesting to me that you're still passionate about the community thing, and the proactiveness is, I guess where I was getting with that was like, it's also hard for me to think proactively because I can get really in my head.
Well, you don't work with 50 people every day.
Right.
And my job is to make them happy.
Yeah.
So that makes it proactive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Physically, what can I give them with my hands? And mentally, what can I give them with my voice? What do they need to hear to feel better about themselves?
Has that job, I know that you don't want to do more of it when you get home, but has the job sort of trained you in a way to interact with other people outside of the...
You realize everyone's wrestling with loneliness.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And everyone wrestles with low self-esteem. And so when I interact with people outside of here, not that I don't want to, but I want to be selective.
Yeah.
I can't control who walks in the door.
Right.
When I leave here, I can control who I pick the phone up and talk to.
Yeah.
But you become more aware, too soon old, too late smart.
Yeah.
You just think, man, I could have been a little softer with that person. I could have given them a little more space. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
For them to feel whatever they're feeling, because people aren't what you want them to be. They're who they are.
Right.
And you have to learn that. And you learn so much when you have relationships, not just about the other person, but about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what am I learning how to talk to this type of person? What is it why am I getting mad about this? Or why am I feeling anxiety? Or what's the stress? What is that? So how can I learn to calm that part of it down in me?
When was the first time that you felt like you belonged in Batavia?
Well, I always felt like I belonged here because we went to church here, played baseball here, went to school here. So I never felt like I didn't belong here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You never questioned that?
No, I grew up in a small subdivision outside of town where everybody knew everybody.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And my grandparents lived here.
Yeah.
So, and I used to laugh because people would say they were going to go downtown. And I'd say, well, my dad works downtown. And they'd go, where? And I go, Foltos Barbershop.
Yeah.
But they meant downtown Chicago. We didn't go on vacations. We didn't, vacation was you go to your grandma's house in Batavia on the other side of town for a couple days. That was your vacation.
Right. So this is where you, even for vacation, you would sort of find a cool place in Batavia.
Well, you learn to, my dad used to call the TV the idiot box.
Yeah.
So we were only allowed one TV show a day.
Yeah.
So we played a lot more outside, but I read a lot and I drew. Do you know what I mean? When I was a kid, Leonardo da Vinci was my idol. And I just loved how his brain worked. Do you know what I mean? And I would just draw, like I drew nature. I drew all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I just, it's you keep yourself busy that way. And we read, my dad would bring the newspaper home every day from the barber shop. And my brother and I would read it from cover to cover. Do you know what I mean? So you get an idea of what's happening out in the world.
Yeah. You got an idea of what was happening out in the world, and you were inherently contrasting that with what's happening in Batavia.
Well, you can't realize when you're a kid how big things are.
Yeah.
But there was something else.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Other than just your place and your table.
I'm fascinated by the fact, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, did you ever leave Batavia?
Once I stayed overnight in Warrenville.
Okay, so this is interesting to me because I feel like everyone I've talked to has had especially like, I guess like younger business owners have had the moment where they go to Chicago I've had two people that I talked to. They go live in Chicago for a while and then they come back home, right? Why did you never want to sort of explore how big the world was?
I like to explore, but this had everything I needed.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It had a place to build houses. It had a barber shop.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It had the necessities that I needed to make a living.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I was fortunate that I could translate what I had learned into something that could make money so I could be okay.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what your parents teach you is independence. Do you know what I mean? Here, I'm not going to be here forever. How are you going to do this?
Yeah. And you found that independence here.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, when your dad dies, I was 23 years old. And it took me about 2 years to realize he wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
And I had to make the decisions what we're going to do. And when you're young, sometimes you make decisions that you didn't think through as much as you should have.
Okay.
Like there's two words that I learned, I wish I'd have learned a long time ago, is then what? Whenever you're going to do something.
Right. Yeah.
Well, then what? What are you going to do? Then what happens? You know, but you don't have a real big reference point. Again, too soon old, too late smart. You know, I didn't have enough experiences, and you start getting smarter and you go, when I did that before and I stuck my hand in the flames, it kind of hurt. So I probably shouldn't do that anymore.
What was the thing you did that hurt?
Everything, the choices you make, you know, the things that you do that you regret later. You know, Albert Schweitzer said the secret to a happy life is good health and a bad memory.
Yeah.
You don't want to remember some of the things you did. You know what I mean? They're embarrassing. Or you go, oh, that was not good.
But do you regret not leaving Batavia?
No, I don't regret that at all.
Okay.
No, I've read my whole life. So, you know, when you read, you go to all kinds of places in your mind.
Yeah. So you feel content in that?
Yeah, it's fine. It's, you know, I like Batavia. One of the reasons I've enjoyed it is Fermilab brought in a whole new way of thinking.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Because Fermilab brings in people from all over the world.
Yeah.
I don't want to just be with all the same kind of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That we're all the same age. We all have 2 kids. We all came from the suburbs and we all drive a minivan.
Right.
No, I like when somebody grew up in Egypt.
Yeah.
What do you think about in Egypt? What is it you played? What is it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I've enjoyed having Fermilab there.
Yeah. That's made it have more variety. So the change that's happened over time has made it more interesting over time for you.
Some of it, yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
You know, Batavia, like lots of small towns, has lost a lot of the, like there's no hardware stores that are little independents anymore.
Right.
There's no appliance store anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
This episode of Area Code Batavia is brought to you by Bulldog Plumbing Incorporated. If you live in the Fox Valley, especially Batavia, you know the problems that hard water can cause. Scaly dishes, dull hair. We've had a bunch of issues with our appliances, and it became a problem. We had to address it. That's where Bulldog Plumbing comes in. They're a family-owned business who understands specifically our local water issues. We actually used them to check out some of the issues we were having in our home. They came in, they looked around, and they gave us sort of an honest appraisal of what we could do, what we experienced. And we experienced no pressure from them to do something we didn't want to do. So we had a really good experience with them. And Douglas and Jamie Sam pride themselves on supporting the local community through their local business. That's the whole reason they're supporting Area Code Batavia. So if you're experiencing issues with hard water and you want to address that, call Bulldog Plumbing today for your free water analysis and personalized solution. Call them at 630-313-9109.
Was there ever a time when you sort of questioned whether you should have done the barbershop thing where whether you should have bought it and run it?
No, I've been pretty, it's far surpassed what I could have ever imagined for emotional and financial and spiritual wellness.
Yeah.
I couldn't have asked for a better job.
What is there any point of tension that exists around this? Are there anything you do struggle with, or that you just have to push through, or whatever?
When you get up every day,
yeah,
you have to have energy.
Yeah.
And sometimes, after 60, they said, if you wake up and nothing hurts, you're dead. Mm-hmm. And but I guess for struggling, one of the hardest things now that I really think about it, you want the people that work for you to be successful. And I've had 2 women that worked here for over 30 years, and one's been here now 34 years, and another one 26 years.
Yeah.
But when they don't make it, it breaks my heart.
Right.
Because this has been such a good place for me, and it's given me so much. And I want to, it's what I'm experiencing now is I'm seeing I'm not going to live forever. Mm-hmm. And I want to help some people from the next generation to have this opportunity. Plus, this little shop has been really good for the community. Do you know what I mean? It's helped people. When young people come in and they've been dumped by their girlfriend or boyfriend, and you talk to them, and you can tell that they feel better after they talk to you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. You go, that was good. That helped. Or when you do the chop around the clock, and the same people come every year and help out, and it's good for their souls. And I cook a meal at Thanksgiving at the Ronald McDonald House, and I bring people in from here to help. And the smiles that they get from knowing they're helping people they've never met, they're never really going to meet, just to prepare a meal because it's the right thing to do. Right. Because people want to feel good. And finding a place where you can do the right thing, that's not always easy. So it's good. It feels like the idea of like having things passed down, this lineage piece is really important to you. Oh, absolutely. You want to know that the next generation's going to be okay. Yeah. And it scares the holy bejesus out of you sometimes. Right. Yeah. You have children and you go, God, I hope they're figuring this out. Yeah. And it's the scary, but it's been that way since the history of time. Right. Right. Yeah. One of the things you've done in this direction a little bit is, my understanding is you're sort of instrumental in the Peace Bridge. Yeah. Can you talk about like why you felt that was important to take part in? Well, when I was, like I said, my parents grew up in Aurora. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with Leonard's Avenue, but Leonard's Avenue, it's a section of town they put up the nativity scene, and at the bottom of a ravine, they have a big manger scene, and it says Noel. And I am a visual person. It's what I do for a living. Yeah. I've done art my whole life. Yeah. And I was driving across the bridge, and I said, that pedestrian bridge would be a great place for a sign that says peace on earth. So I talked to the park district, and it took just a little bit of convincing, but they said, sure, we'll let you do that. Yeah. So I talked to the lumber yard. I bought some lumber. Talked to one of my friends who's a painter, another friend of mine, and he cut it out, and my friend painted it, and then we had the park district put it up, and I had no idea that it was going to be as popular as it has been. It's probably the most photographed thing in Batavia. Yeah. And I get letters from people telling me what it means to them. I got a letter last year from a lady saying, the holidays are a sad time for me, but when I drive across the bridge and I see that, it gives me hope. Yeah. What else is there in your life but hope? Yeah. You know what I mean? Without hope, what's the point? Right. And so when you can contribute to that, you want to do stuff like that. So yeah, it's been good. Again, that proactive thing, that idea that you're driving across and you like have a good idea of what should be there. Yeah. But then you actually like try and
make it happen. And you
Yeah.
said there's this yada yada thing in your story where you say it took some convincing. I'm curious, like, what was that convincing? What did you actually have to do to make that happen?
You just talk with one of my customers who knew me for a while, was on the park board.
Okay.
And he knew that I wasn't crazy in my head.
Uh-huh.
And I said, I want to do this. I want to make it convenient or easy for the park district to do.
Yeah.
So that it's not going to cost them a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, you have to have some people on board that buy into what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he bought into it.
Yeah.
And so it was really a good thing. You know what I mean? And so it's been good. It's been a great thing, actually.
What has owning a business in Batavia taught you about yourself?
Oh, the best thing is that we're all so much the same, that we all so much want somebody to love us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want to love it. We have to learn to love ourselves. When people come in, every once in a while they'll say, especially if they have a little girl, well, now you look beautiful. I said, no, she already looked beautiful. We're just polishing another side of a diamond.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're all diamonds.
Yeah.
It's realizing that, do you know what I mean, and feeling that.
Yeah.
So that, I have lots of older people, and I get their phone numbers when they don't come in because they get very, like every 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, they're on a schedule.
Yeah.
And when they don't come in and I worry about them, then I call them to just make sure they're all right.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like feeling that? Who doesn't like feeling somebody actually cared?
Yeah, totally.
Because the loneliness, I'm different. I don't have the right kind of shoes. Those people have a bigger house. Mm-hmm. That person has a different car. That person has an easier, a better,
Yeah.
And it's easy to get caught up in that stuff. And that stuff doesn't ever get you anywhere except crazy. You can't listen to that stuff.
Yeah.
You just got to look at, you're a good person, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
When you're a parent, a coach, a teacher, it's believing in somebody till they start believing in themselves. Because it does take a village to raise people. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's got to pitch in. And if somebody puts their hand on your back when you're feeling a little less than whatever, that makes you feel better. You go, gosh, somebody actually cares that I'm here today.
Right. Yeah.
They'd miss me if I wasn't here.
Did you ever, really, you're talking about comparison, right? You're talking about comparing yourself to other people.
Yeah, when people get into that, it's crazy.
Do you struggle with that at all, or you just don't understand why people do it?
I understand why they do it.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate. We all do it to a point, especially when we're kids.
Yeah.
But my father's family came here from Romania.
Okay.
My grandparents could never read or write in any language, but they paid for every one of their brothers and sisters to come here to this country to have a better life. They could have spent the money on themselves, but they said, no, I want to help my family have a better life. But when your mom and dad can't read or write, you're not getting invited to the debutante ball.
Right.
And my dad would always say, nobody's any better than you, but you're no better than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And when you hear that enough and you start thinking it, do you know what I mean? You start going, okay. And, I was blessed. I had all my appendages. I had a good brain. Sometimes people don't have that. And when you're young, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that that person is just as important as you. Yeah. And you have to step back and go, they're important. You know what I mean? They need to be loved just like I need to be loved. And what can I do for them?
That you're not more important than anyone else thing feels like it's somewhat embodied in Batavia, like compared to other places. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like it's pretty well embodied?
Well, I think in all places you're going to find the good and the bad.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
There's Cain and Abel, baby.
Yes.
It's just the way that it goes. You have to wrestle with it. Human beings are made, they're not born.
Yeah.
And you need people that care about one another. Do you know what I mean? But in any town, you're going to have where there's more affluence. We're a country that capitalism, commercial, we sell. You know, if you have a bigger car, you're a better person. If you have this, you're better.
Yeah.
If your house is bigger, you're better.
Yeah.
And it takes a while to realize, oh, that's just a bunch of kablooey. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. What is it about Foltos that could only work in Batavia?
I don't know if there's anything that I could think of that it could only work. This has been, since the history of man, there have been Foltoses, whether it was wishing well.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to northern Wisconsin and there's restaurants that it's the only, you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
the place where you buy your feed for your, so it can happen. It does happen everywhere. You know what I mean? It just takes people with what they have available to them and dreaming a little bit and say, okay, we can make this work.
Yeah.
You know, because there's so many great people that do so many great things. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you just have to have that thing that's burning inside of you that you go, I want to help out. You know,
Right.
there's Ben and Jerry's had an ice cream store in New York. And once a month, they would have a different charity come in and they would give them part of the proceeds for helping out.
Yeah.
I would love to have something like that here.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love seeing people get together to make it better. I mean, there's whatever kind of club, I mean, there's Ronald McDonald houses all over the world. You know what I mean? And those things are put together by volunteers helping to make it better.
Yeah.
I have a sign up in here and it says, what's on your head is important, but what's in your head is just as important. And that's really what I think. It doesn't matter what you're selling. It's that you're worried about what's inside somebody's head.
Yeah. It sounds like haircuts are kind of beside the point to you a little bit.
Especially, I mean, I still like cutting hair. I've been a visual designer my whole life.
Yeah.
But what's more important is that person in that chair feels good when they leave. That they feel that they belong somewhere, and you help give them a little sense of that.
Yeah. What keeps you up at night?
I'm not always the best at having faith, and I worry about my son a lot. I worry about my mom sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't worry so much about me, but I want to feel that my son's getting it. Do you know what I mean? Getting the picture of how to get from here to there.
Yeah.
And to live if you're not honest with yourself, you will never have intimacy with anybody else. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? That's hard to ask yourself that, because you have to be honest then. What did I just do? Why did I do that? What made me think that was a good idea? Or what is it about that? And if you don't examine your life, I mean, heck, people have been writing about it for hundreds of years. A life not examined really isn't worth living.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, we're not here to just consume stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's what were we doing to make the next generation better?
Did you struggle to examine yourself in that way?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah.
When my dad died, you know, finding your space is hard. Do you know what I mean? You're a young man. You had to work at finding where you fit.
Yeah.
How you belong in this thing of 8 billion people.
Yeah.
So that you can go to bed at night and go, it's okay. So yeah, I mean, when my dad died, it was like the teacher left the room.
Yeah.
And when the teacher leaves the room, there's chaos.
Yeah.
And you have to take that chaos and somehow go, that's important, that's not important. And that's where you start to realize there's so much monkey chatter.
Yeah.
I can't listen to what you think.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter to me. That's, you know, and you surround yourself with people that examine their lives. If you hang around 5 people that lift weights, you're going to lift weights.
Right.
If you hang around 5 people that are millionaires, you're probably going to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
But conversely, if you hang around with 5 bank robbers, guess what? You're probably going to jail too.
It's interesting though, the way, from my perspective, okay, so
really quickly, I'm about to tell my life story, I think. But like my dad died when I was relatively young, not as young as you are. I think I was 28 when my dad died. And I experienced the teacher left the room, chaos, but also that chaos is an opportunity for clarity, right? And so I started to go more into the things I felt, hang out around the people I felt I could. But because of the internet, I really got to choose. You really have an opportunity to sort of be really selective about the type of people you want to hang out with. And sort of where I'm landing, you know, I really haven't figured out completely where I should exist. But one of the things I'm sort of coming to, and it's reflected in this podcast, is like local community, real life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But what's interesting about that is it comes with less choice. I am choosing local. I'm choosing community. My community is where I want to exist. I think I lived in this town for maybe 2 or 3 years before I made an effort to be in the town, if you know what I mean, to like venture outside as often as possible. And that's a real choice, but it did result in me coming into contact with people that are not on the same wavelength as me, and that do lift weights or do whatever stuff that I would never want to do or don't do, but I have to appreciate nonetheless. How do you balance the tension between, and especially working at a barbershop where, again, like you said, you can't control who comes in and who comes out. How do you balance the tension of being around all sorts of people versus who you want to be involved with?
The older you get,
you
realize how short your life is.
Yes.
And if something doesn't make me go, oh yeah, then why am I doing it?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get to do this forever. Mm-hmm. And I realize there's a finite number of days, whether it's 10 or 10,000, whatever. And I want my life to mean something to me that day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That I surround myself with words and thoughts and people that I like how they live. You know, I'm not trying to chase attaboys from everybody.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get them from everybody, and not everyone's going to like your podcast.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the great part about America.
It's the worst, man. It's that part. I'm not like this, right? Like, I really care what people think of me, all people. And it's frustrating to me when I think every now and then I'll click into that right mindset of like, they just don't get it. It's fine. But it is very hard for me.
You got to let go of that.
I know. I know it, but it's hard, right? Like, it's a habit that
when this country was founded, the framers of the Constitution allowed themselves to write in paper that black people were only 3/5 of a white person. Mm-hmm. I can't really take real seriously everything that those people say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I say to myself, that's not how my brain thinks. Mm-hmm. My brain needs to think in terms of, I don't just think in terms of Batavia. I don't think in terms of just Illinois.
Yeah.
I think in terms of the world, you know?
Yeah.
7 people were just killed volunteering to feed people over in Gaza.
Yeah.
I love that guy, Jose Andres, and I'll bet tonight he is heartbroken that something he created to feed people just lost 7 people.
Yeah.
And that affected me. Those were good people, you know what I mean, trying to make a difference. There's people all over the world trying to make it better. We all want the same thing. You know, a place to sleep, some food, some water, and somebody to love us.
Yeah.
And, you know, not everyone's always going to love you.
Yeah.
And you just got to go, that's okay. I know that I'm doing a good job.
What do you think it means to belong in Batavia?
Well, like I just said, I don't really think of just belonging in Batavia. Mm-hmm. 60% of my business comes from outside of Batavia.
60%?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So those people are just like me, except they live in a place with a different area code.
Totally, yeah.
And I have people that come in from all over the world, from Fermilab that come in, or they live in Australia, and when they come to the United States, to this Chicago, they always come in to get a haircut.
Yeah.
So I just try and think of terms of like that soul and my soul are connected. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like whether it's Batavia or Geneva, I don't have any of that rivalry stuff. I don't, like when it's sporting events and, we got to beat that. I don't think like that.
Well, you got to root for somebody.
I want us to play the best we can and to be the best we can.
Okay. You want everybody to be the best they can.
Be the best you can.
Yeah.
And the chips are going to fall where they fall.
Yeah.
You know, I was fortunate when my dad died. I had several older men that came here every day for coffee, and we would sit and talk. And several of them, one was in World War I, and he would tell stories about it.
Yeah.
And one of them had been in World War II, and he never told me this till, I probably knew him 25 years. He was a small guy, and he was on point. So that was the most dangerous place. He was in the South Pacific. And he got wounded, and his company went to rescue him, and he said, no, leave me out here as a bait. And when you shoot that sniper, then you can come and get me. And I go, here's a guy giving up his life to help other people.
Yeah.
Whether they weren't from Batavia.
Yeah.
They weren't from St. Charles. They were from Adam and Eve. Do you know what I mean? They're just people.
Yeah.
Just trying to fight to make it better.
Yeah.
And that's where I think is where I fit. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Peace on Earth sign doesn't say made in Batavia or only for Batavia. No, it's just peace on earth. It's just, let's all be connected to one another.
I tend to see Batavia from an outsider's perspective, and because of that, I'm fascinated with the town. For instance, I love the fact that Batavia is a river town and how so much of the landscape is situated around that river. But what really seems to excite Craig are the ways the world outside of Batavia finds its way to make a mark on us. The ways we can make a mark on the world. I think it can be easy to think of Batavia as a collection of historical industries, as a river town, as the host of the Windmill Festival. But what really matters about a town is its people, and the way those people impact one another. But even more, what makes a town great is the way those people impact the world outside of itself. Ultimately, landscape, industries, events, and landmarks are just structures that facilitate connection. And that river we love so much, it isn't just ours. It flows into Batavia from other places, and it flows out of Batavia to other towns. The real question is, what impact can we have on those downstream? Thanks for listening to Area Code Batavia. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode. If you enjoy this podcast, why not subscribe to our newsletter? Just click the link in the show notes and put in your email address. Not only will we let you know whenever there's a new episode of Area Code Batavia available, but each issue also brings you 5 concrete ways to experience a deeper sense of belonging in the community of Batavia, Illinois. Most importantly, if you know someone who would love to hear this podcast, please share it with them. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community and help more people feel like they belong in Batavia, Illinois. Area Code Batavia is produced by Area Code Audio. It's hosted and produced by me, Richard Clark, with additional production help from Jennifer Clark.